Hi everyone, I'm Kelsey. This is Essentially Booked. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. I've got a little bit of a different setup because, I don't know, just because my Monstera is like making me so happy. It needs to be repotted, but I just thought I'd make a good backdrop and the lighting's good over here. I'm all about my plants lately, sorry. Anyway, so I'm going to talk about my May reading wrap up. I had an okay May reading. I feel like it was very much like a summer reading month. A very good kickoff. Not a lot of literary or deep books, more rom-coms, some nonfiction, faster paced books. And honestly, with the season that May is for, I think, everybody, but I think that's what I needed. So I'm very happy with how May was, but it wasn't like best reading month of my life type thing. I read 10 books in May, which is really good. That's pretty average for me. I had 1 2-star, 4 3-stars, 3 4-stars, and 2 5-star books. So I will start from lowest to highest as far as which books I gave what ratings to, and I don't have any physical books because I either read them as audiobooks, library books, or e-arcs this month. I got 1 book of the month book, I guess, off my shelf, but I sold that on Pango. My Pango bookshop is always listed in the comments, as well as other affiliate links. Just wanted to let you guys know that that's always downstairs. That's always down in the comments. So let's get started with the book. Okay, coming in at 2 stars is The It Girl by Ruth Ware. This is my very first Ruth Ware book, and I found it to be too long. It needed to be edited down, and I think my main gripe with the book is that I loved The Secret History, and this felt like The Secret History a bit much. I read The Secret History last year and I read Babel this year, and very different books, but also very similar books, and it just kind of fell flat for me. I will keep trying Ruth Ware. I'm not gonna keep reading her because I know she's very beloved. I think the other disservice with this book is it was advertised as a thriller, and I don't think Ruth Ware is a thriller writer. I think she's more of a mystery suspense. And so I went into it with different expectations, and it took me a really long time to read, and for the length of the book, the font size, it shouldn't have taken me that long. So 2 stars. Then for 3 stars, I read The Cuban Heiress by Chanel Cleaton, and I really like her books. She writes books with Cuba as a backdrop, kind of through the 50s, 60s, 70s, as Cuba went through a lot of change historically, but they're historical fiction, usually with kind of a thriller suspense component, and there's always a romance generally. So this one follows 2 women who are on a cruise ship that goes from Miami to Cuba. One girl is gonna be marrying the super wealthy guy. There is a regular girl who's hiding something on the ship, and their paths intertwine while someone is trying to kill both of them. It was just very interesting. There was a lot less in this one about Cuban history, but there was still the Cuban Revolution as a backdrop. I always learn so much out of her books, and I go on like these Google rabbit holes. This is based on a true story. I actually think the ship was going from like New York to Cuba, if I remember correctly, because there's a tragedy on the ship. I always just learn something in her books that we aren't really taught about in mainstream history necessarily. So she's just really great. All of her backlists, I've read every Cuba novel except for 1. I just recommend them if you like fast-paced historical fiction. And then I read The Kingdom of the Wicked. I will be doing a reading vlog for that, so I am not going to talk about that much here. That was a 3-star read. And then Heart and Soul, Seoul as in South Korea. I was pleasantly surprised by this book in one way and disappointed in another. It's a rom-com about a Korean-American adoptee who finds out a little bit about her past and decides to go to Korea just to learn about her background. I did not know there was an adoption storyline going into it, and so that was the pleasant surprise. It's written by an adult adoptee, and I am trying to surround myself with adoptee voices constantly as an adoptive mom. And so this was just a really good, fun book. But there's a lot of commentary on being a transracial adoptee, being an international adoptee, just being an adoptee that I really appreciated and learned from a lot. Now, K-dramas are not my thing, and I know there are a lot of people's things. This has a lot of K-drama elements, and it was kind of cheesy. So that's where I didn't love it as much and why it was a 3-star read. Still really fun, a great 3-star. And then I read Once More with Feeling by Elisa Sussman. I really enjoyed this. It's more of a 3.75 than a 3. This follows Kathleen, who in her past life, she was like a Britney Spears pop star on tour with a band that would be like NSYNC. And now when I was in second grade, I went to a concert that had NSYNC, Britney Spears, she was the headliner, and Bewitched. So I just couldn't stop picturing that this whole book. She's dating one of the guys in this band, and it's more of like a publicity relationship, but she secretly has feelings for another person. Fast forward to the future, that man that she had feelings for is directing a play that her best friend writes, more of like a Broadway musical that her best friend writes, and she is gonna be the leading lady. You find out what happened in the past and the future. It's just like her other books, there's back and forth. But this kind of gave me like that NSYNC Britney Spears vibe in the past. And then if you liked the show Bombshell, which I did, and I'm still super mad it got canceled, a lot of the present is just how a Broadway show comes to be. It was really fun. I really liked it. It was great for summer, 3.75. I just didn't connect with the main characters as much as I would have liked, which is kind of why I gave it a lower rating, but it was really fun. So if you like rom-coms, romance. Now for 4 stars, I read Happy Place by Emily Henry. Not my favorite Emily Henry, but still really good. And that's in second chance romance. I found it hard to follow some of the characters. There was a lot of characters. And then some of the things that the guy did I thought was emotionally manipulative, but there is really good mental health rep in this book. Also narrated by Julia Whalen, which I really love. And then I read Warrior Girl Unearthed by Angeline Boulley. This is one of my most anticipated releases of the year, and it did not disappoint. She wrote this it's 10 years after The Firekeeper's Daughter. You don't need to read The Firekeeper's Daughter to read this, but there are like characters that are in both books, but you won't, it's just kind of nice to like see how your favorite characters are doing. That's the vibe I got versus like needing to know what happened. This book follows Perry, who crashes her car, and her Aunt Denise, she fixes the car and pays for it, but then makes Perry go into this internship program for Indigenous people on their island. And this is like Upper Peninsula, Michigan, kind of on the Canadian border. So she ends up working at a museum, and she learns about repatriation and how a lot of Native American artifacts are in museums and need to be returned to their tribes. And so the Native American population here in the United States through this act, has been trying to get these artifacts and their ancestors back to the tribes. And it's just a very, very sad reality. And then kind of the gaslighting and stuff that these cultures face trying to get their people back. So there's a lot of education on that, which I thought was really interesting. There's a heist component in this one, and overall it was good, but it was kind of far-fetched, and it really happened fast at the end, and I didn't quite follow it. So probably why I didn't give it a 5-star. I think but for that, it would have been a 5-star read. I will read anything Angeline Boulley writes. I just love what she's doing. I think her books are fast-paced. They suck me in. And then I read The Last Word, and I gave it 4 stars. I am not a huge thriller reader, you guys, and most of you know that. I really struggle. When I read a thriller, I want it to make my heart race. I want to suspend disbelief. I want it to be a wild ride. I want it to be fun. This is the thriller for me. It's why I like Riley Sager too, I think. So this book is about an influencer who writes a bad review, and the author takes it out on her. And the first chapter creeped me out so much I had to put the book down. And it was like, one of my friends has this rule that there's certain books that you can't read after 7 o'clock or it'll give you nightmares. This is a before 7 o'clock book because it gave me nightmares. But once I really got into the story, I needed to know that the main character was going to be okay. This was just a wild ride. It was what I wanted. Perfect for summer reading. Suspend disbelief, have fun with it. That's why I loved it. My heart rate raced. It was super stressful, but I had to know what was going to happen to the main character. 4 stars, way fun. And then number 5. The first book I read is Screaming on the Inside, and this is about the unsustainability of American motherhood. And a lot of it is research done during the pandemic and how the pandemic really shined a light on inconsistencies in our system, which we all know, and how it's sad that nothing really changed even now. Lots of commentary on like influencer culture, the daycare crisis, support systems within our government, the child tax credit, and then like how society puts so much pressure on women and working women, stay-at-home women. Like it really touches on all aspects of motherhood. So even if you're not a working mom, there's a lot of really great commentary on being a stay-at-home mom. I really liked it. It's on audio. I listened to it while I was steaming my deck, and I think it's just a really important read. It's not very long, so if you're just looking for a fast-paced nonfiction book, I really enjoyed it. It was what I kind of needed. It was, as an adoptive mom, obviously my birth experience is a little different, but a lot of the commentary was still relevant. Like there's a lot of talk about like breastfeeding and stuff that didn't apply to me, but I still learned a lot. And I think no matter where you stand politically, I think you would still really enjoy this book. I just think the author really did a nice job. And then my final 5-star read was The True Love Experiment. No surprise if you saw that vlog, so I'm just gonna pop it up here and then you can click that. But holy steam, holy hilarious. Everything about it I loved. I will read anything that they write still. Like this book just blew it out of the park for me. It was so much fun. Perfect summer romance. So if you're looking for that beach read, True Love Experiment. I would say honestly, if you're looking for some beach reads, the ones that I would recommend this month would be True Love Experiment, The Last Word, Happy Place, and then Once More with Feeling. I think those were all really fun books for the beach. And all in all, like I said, I had a great summer reading month, like a month of exactly what I want to read in the summer. May was what I needed. Here we go. Until the next time, everybody. See you later.